Hi, welcome to Parenting and Teaching with Richie Huffman. I'm Richie Huffman, President and CEO of Celebrate Preschools. On these podcasts, we'll be talking to real parents, teachers about what's going on at home, in the classroom, and everything in between. I hope you find these conversations informative, helpful, sometimes funny, and sometimes serious. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm Richie.
This is Allie.
And we're here with Chris Peusch, Executive Director for the Maryland State Child Care Association.
Hey,
Welcome,
guys.
Chris.
How are you?
Good
Hi.
morning.
Good. Glad to be here.
Thanks. And I think today's a very serious conversation. We're going to be talking about universal pre-K and kind of what that means to Maryland and what that means to child care providers and also parents.
Absolutely.
right?
So, Chris, how did you get in this position?
Okay, so I actually was in the childcare world for quite a long time, about 11 years. I was a director of a program in Hunt Valley for about 7 years, and then I became a regional director and did all of the work for the pre-K division for the nonprofit that I was working for. So we had 6 childcare programs that I ran. They were all accredited. They were in Excel's programs, and so I did that, and then I happened to also, in tandem, be on this board for the Maryland State Child Care Association. I was on their professional development committee. Then I became part of their board and worked my way up. And then when their executive director left, I decided to apply for the position about 6.5 years ago. So I've been working as their executive director, and it's a good fit for me.
Yeah,
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, congrats.
Thank you.
What exactly is the role of Maryland State Child Care Association?
So we are a nonprofit 501c that represents professional licensed childcare programs, primarily center-based childcare. That is what we were founded on. We do have some very small, 10% or less, what our bylaws require of family child care providers because they have their own associations. And then we also have business members that have are allied partners of ours that become members and want to offer discounts to, our membership, our programs, and they are vital in supporting us and donating to different causes and conferences and such. So we have about 380 child care centers, but that's not our membership. Our membership is a comprehensive membership, so it includes everyone that works in the child care center is a member, because when you pay, your program gets a certificate, and then anyone that works there can have that in their file to use for credentialing, for accreditation. They're all professionals and part of our membership.
Wow.
So we're a little unique in that perspective.
I don't even know if I even knew that.
Yes, so all of your staff,
awesome.
You do because you all use yours, and they can work their way up the credentialing ladder and help you with
I see.
accreditation. So that's what our goal is. Our goal is to provide member benefits to you. Our goal is to educate our members so they understand what's going on in Maryland. We also have professional lobbyists, government relations firms, the Compass, that works with us during legislative session and off session. We also offer a grant through, it's called the Jennifer Nizer Passion for Excellence Grant.
Very cool.
Named after our former president, who I know you had on your podcast. Jen's a good friend of mine. She was the president I worked with for a number of years, and she's a mover and shaker. We're excited to have her back in Maryland. And she's, walked the walk too. So we wanted to, we don't like to honor people when they're dead. We like them to enjoy it while they're here. So she was so touched, and, her mom came to the first,
that's
and we
awesome.
give out the grant every year in her name. And we want to make sure the caveat is it doesn't come from MSD. This is money from members like you, Richie, that all contribute to their regular membership dues that we use as part of our budgeting, so that we can give out. We've given out about $45,000 in scholarship money.
That's amazing.
In the 4 years I've instituted this. So
Very cool.
We've grown our program. It's if you don't belong to something, you belong to us or belong to another association. I belong to many. I'm sure you belong to different professional associations. That's important to get information, and that's what we hope we do, a good service and provide great benefits for members.
Well, it sounds like you do a lot of services.
So
So we're actually here today to talk specifically about universal pre-K. So I want to focus on that part of what MSCCA does. So can you give a little bit of background on it for our parents and teachers who listen to our podcast? Is universal pre-K a new term? What is it actually?
It's not a new term in general across the country. It's a number of states have universal pre-K. Over 20 have universal pre-K in some form. Many of those forms are diverse delivery, and we'll say that a number of times. Diverse delivery just means that it's not just public pre-K, but it's in community-based settings. So it could be in a Celebrate, it can be in a religious school. It can be in a Montessori school. It's delivered in
or in a public school?
And in a public school. Absolutely.
Gotcha.
We're all, because none of us have the capacity necessarily to do this without each other. And we also want to offer it together, because what we all know, and the parents that are listening know, that you don't work 6.5 hours a day. You work more than that. And so it's important that you have options so that you're not missing work, and that you have, that you have other opportunities. And so that's why diverse delivery is so important. And that it's quality. Right.
Okay. So let's get into it. So exactly what's going on right now? What's going on in Maryland?
So in Maryland, we have what's called, in the last 5 to 6 years, we've had pre-K expansion in Maryland, which is for low-income families, and it is an expansion of pre-K, and you have to meet a criteria. It's a criteria that you fill out the paperwork, and if you're eligible, then your child can go to a public pre-K. It is also done in Maryland in a diverse delivery system. So a number of MSCCA members deliver, as does Richie's mom, deliver a pre-K expansion for these families, and it's worked well. We partner, put in for the grant money, and it's monitored through MSDE. It's not done locally, other than it's an MOU with the local school, but it's done mostly through MSDE as an oversight, which
and
we
those
like.
are half-day programs typically, and when they're in public schools, right?
Many of them have been half-day. There's a few that have converted to full-day. And we're going to talk about what Kerwin, or the Innovations for an Excellence in Education Commission, is working on, is looking at expanding it to full day everywhere.
And you typically get into those programs in public schools when you either have low income or a disability, correct? Those are
mostly low income.
Qualifying.
Yeah, ELL people, English language learners. That's not their first language, so that depends on. But you do have to qualify with eligibility wise with low income typically.
Okay.
Yes, your income levels determine that.
Right.
And we're calling that pre-K expansion.
Expansion.
Okay.
That's what we call it here.
Okay.
So that's been working well. And that expansion, we actually got money in the legislature this past session in 2017-18 that they have funded it for longer periods of time with enough money to keep it going.
Is there a reason why it's not in all public schools
Well,
in our counties?
it's very expensive, so it's cost billions of dollars to provide that.
So it's a slow rolling process of where they can get it in, who has space,
and
where they can.
And it's a good question, because another reason is that for example, not every family is low income. So we need to find that there's an achievement gap, and research shows us throughout nationally that the children that are not where they need to be with their reading or their word the word gap and such is children from the lower at-risk population.
Right.
So that lower income and at-risk population. So that's why it's important to have the pre-K expansion and to have childcare subsidies. And I know you did a podcast, and I'm really proud of the work that Richie and you are doing with that, because you're a great model, and I had you speak about it at our leadership symposium. And it is something that we really need to embrace now that we finally have some money infused, which Maryland has ignored and neglected this. And shame on them. For over 12 years, we have not had any money infused, very, very little. There were 4,300 children on the waiting list, and John may have mentioned that from MSDE, that did not get placed for the most part. We were at the 9th percentile in the country, which is the lowest, of reimbursement rates, meaning that you get reimbursed as a provider for taking children. So many providers weren't really able to take children because they couldn't afford it in their programs. We work on some
Very
small,
low margins.
Yeah. Richie can attest to that. A lot of questions I get from legislators and people and parents even are like, well, why is childcare so expensive when it's one of the top 3 expenses for families, top 3. And it's not because we're making a lot of money. It's because of the regulations. Yeah. It's the ratios and the regulation. There's no automation. You can't phone it in. You got to be there.
Well, we want both, right? We want high quality, and low cost.
Absolutely.
I don't know if
it doesn't go together.
That formula doesn't work. I'm all for the high quality. I think what the state has done in raising the quality, I think it's been amazing. I've seen it, right? But how do we balance the high quality and the cost also?
Investments. There has to be investments. So between having more investments, which was a big win for MSCCA and some of our partners who have worked very long and hard to testify, and we actually called the Washington Post, the Baltimore Sun, and had articles in. Jennifer Dorsey, who's in Baltimore City, did a number of our articles, and we had brought a lot of attention along with our partners to the legislature and the governor's office about what's going on and why we're not we have such a low reimbursement rate, and our eligibility rates were you may have already said this, for a family of 3, we're $29,900, which is
crazy.
ridiculous. So that is shameful. And
you're not thinking about
children.
Quality. You're thinking
quality
about
or children or
I'm
families.
talking about families. If you're making 27 as a family,
Right.
you're in survival mode.
Yeah.
You're,
You can't find it.
Looking for childcare.
You're not thinking about
No.
the best place for my baby.
And a lot of programs can't afford to take a loss on that. I mean,
Yeah.
they just can't.
Yeah.
And some did, and some still do. But we were pushing for those, the reimbursement rates first, along with Maryland Family Network, and then the eligibility rates. The governor and MSDE have stepped up and really, doubled those, which has been amazing. I heard that
Great.
you guys have like 50 new families, which is amazing. And a lot of people qualify. And we're not calling it subsidy, guys. We're calling it scholarships, and that's what it is.
Yeah, we love
and
that.
I love that marketing, and it's truth. So, and it's their first scholarship, but I'm sure Jen said that too. So we're a huge proponents. And let me just digress. MSCCA has been, when Excel's program came out, we were at the table to develop it. So Jen Neiser was there along with myself. We also were there to launch it. We did parties. We paid for parties across the state to bring people and say, this is our new quality rating improvement system. We are excited to be there. We continue to this day and will offer discounts to all of our members, which you take advantage of, Richie. If you are published at any level, 1 and up, we give you a discount. It was 20%. Now it's 50. It was down to 15. Now we're down to 10 because so many people are publishing. But we want to keep it at 10, and we can hopefully raise it eventually if our revenue continues to go up. So we definitely highly support quality. So it's not about that. So I'm going to talk about some things it may sound like that we're not, but we definitely do. It just, the investments need to be there. And I think, again, you can speak to this, but we are at a sort of a crucial crossroads. It's hard to find staff and teachers and I know it's even hard in the public school to find them, especially in early childhood. So we have to, we've been working with like the College Consortium, some workforce developments with the National Governors Association, trying to figure out a way how we can develop the workforce, recruit, retain, so that no one's struggling to find, and that the children have what they need in the classrooms. It's crucial is to have great teachers, right? And that's, important. So, we are going to talk a little bit about universal pre-K in Maryland, and it's not here yet, but it is something that is in the Innovations in Education for Excellence Commission, which is, we call it the Kerwin Commission because Britt Kerwin, a wonderful guy, he chairs that commission that's been going for a couple years now in Maryland. It's gotten a lot of press, and he was the chancellor for the University of Maryland university system. So great. It's a lot of different people, and it's got a huge charge. This is just one small aspect of what Kerwin does. I want to make that clear. Universal Pre-K is just one small aspect, and it's not just universal Pre-K. They want to double the Judy centers, expand, family support centers. So it's all of those things. It's not just just
infants and toddlers.
So is universal pre-K in a proposal stage right now? Is that what we'd call it?
It's in a recommendation stage within the report of Kerwin. The final report would include funding, which we haven't seen all the funding yet. So today is a meeting at Kerwin. I have our lobbyists there taking notes, and I can stream it later. I'm typically there, but I thought this was just as important. So I wanted to be sure that they are talking about funding formulas now and how they're going to make that work. So this is billions of dollars, guys. This is a lot of money. So this, I don't think it's going to happen next year, but I do think it's important that we talk about it and have our voice at the table now. We're stakeholders. You're a stakeholder. I represent you, and we need to band together to talk about it and the impact that it has on families. And I think it's important, and I like that this is really geared towards parents too, because what they want, I'm sure they want universal pre-K, right?
Yeah.
They would want to have access and the ability to send their children with their tax-paying dollars. I get that, right? I get that.
Sure.
But what they don't understand or might not understand is that the way this is rolled out right now is that it's only 6.5 hours. So they're still going to have to find before and after school care, which I know you offer, as part of some of the work that you do, Richie. But at the same time, that's not necessarily what's going to happen in their catchment area. So they would have to maybe bus their children somewhere else. And then they're also their children at 3 and 4, because we're talking about low income 3 and all 4-year-olds will be on buses. And in Garrett County, they could be on buses for like a couple hours with 4th graders.
Are you just talking about low income at this point? I'm trying to follow the progression here.
Right.
So what I understand so far, this has started out as pre-K expansion for low income children to get the same benefit that those that can afford a high quality program. And then we went into the increase in the subsidy and the scholarships, right?
Yep.
Which I love that.
Me too.
Right?
Perfect.
So what's the next step?
So the recommendations from this report then look to universal pre-K, and this report is looking at all 4-year-olds for universal pre-K as voluntary, not mandatory or compulsory, and low-income 3-year-olds.
Okay.
So that's what this would be, a full scale.
But wouldn't they be going to the pre-K expansion already?
That's something that will have to be worked out with regard to, probably that will change if it's low income is included in this. But right now, that's what they're looking at. We have pre-K expansion, but this is a long term with regard to how this will be rolled out.
And this isn't just low income. This is all 4-year-olds.
4-year-olds, right. So only 3-year-olds is low income. This speaks, and you'll see it's in the report, which I sent to you guys, and we can share it you can share it freely with your families. You have it electronically, but it includes all 4-year-olds, and it's going to be on a sliding scale. So it'll be families can make over $100,000 and they'll pay a certain amount. Families, it goes down, to the percentages, and then they'll pay a percentage to universal pre-K. What the good news is about the Kerwin Commission report and universal pre-K is that it does include diverse delivery still, which like the pre-K expansion does. It also, we've worked to make sure that quality is important, and we wanted it to start at a level 3 excels, which is still very high quality, and work to a level 5, which is the highest quality in Maryland. And you have 5 years to do that. So many programs fit into that mold, and we need more to do so. So I highly encourage any providers that are listening, and I'm out, saying, I don't want to tell you to run your business. Go ahead and publish and get yourself in there, because then you can be in the running for diverse delivery, which is important to your business. And so once that's there, you can also hire your own teachers in a private setting, which is great. But the teachers have to meet the qualifications in this report. The qualifications in the report say a certified teacher in Maryland, so they have to have their degree, take the praxis, and you can speak to that, Allie.
Yep.
So you're a certified teacher. It doesn't matter if you have your master's, your PhD, you're still not qualified unless you have a certification. So that's the way it is in Maryland. So that's fine. We understand that that's how it works. But
I'm still struggling in my head of why, right? Because even with this increase in the scholarship program, we are here at Celebrate. We are getting more children into our program that at one point in time could not afford.
Right.
And ultimately, that is the goal. So why are we still running so hard to get this into public schools and
So I think that they feel like to have a universal system will lead to higher NAEP scores and scores for children in 3rd grade reading that
we can't?
Well, that's a good question.
Do they
Richie.
think they can do it better than us?
That's a good question. I ask that all the time, because I would take a look at your public schools and where they're ranked in the country. And I would take a look at, that they're not all the highest quality either. We strive for that, and we continue to, and we appreciate the standards and guidelines. And Maryland has the highest standards with regard to their licensing. It's one of the highest in the country. We're under MSDE, which is the Department of Education. We have to have daily schedules. We have to have active and quiet, but we have a lot more than most states have. And I'm sure Jen may have said this, they come to us and ask us questions about everything throughout the state.
And you just hit a nerve with me, because I say this all the time. I've been in a lot of public and private kindergarten classrooms, and we make those look shameful.
I agree with you, Rich, and we prove it. We prove it with the carry data.
And I didn't know that until you just mentioned it, because I know why. Because as you just said, the Maryland State is always monitoring and measuring and making sure we're delivering. That's right. And there is no one, if anyone, that's monitoring and measuring the current situations in these kindergarten classrooms.
Correct.
No.
I know a lot of kindergarten teachers, and I poke at them all the time, like, who reviews your lesson plan? They're like, huh? Nobody. Zero.
Right.
So that is extremely scary to me right now.
Well, and that I agree with you. Listen, I think all of us have done a good job in our early childhood field in Maryland for many, many years, and don't get the respect or credit for it. I am with you, because I ran them, and I know what it takes, and I understand. And this is their first foray into pre-K, so this isn't something they've been doing for years. It's just the pre-K expansion. So it's not. And Allison may know this too. A lot of principals and assistant principals have no early childhood background. So when you're in there, you don't even have the support of that. Here, at least in ours, we have a lot of eyes and ears and support on everything that we do, which and a QRIS system. So we even have heard, and it hasn't been in writing, that they have had requests and waivers from the public schools to not have to partner with us, not have to be a level 5 or use the Excel system. And we're like, oh no, you need to be a level 5 Excel just like we do.
Thank you.
Oh yes.
Thank you.
So that's in there. Everybody has to do it, even though you have your other accreditations. And I know that
that makes me feel better.
They are high quality too, but they need to meet the same standards because we're talking about the same children, age groups, right?
Yes.
It is important and it is different.
Yes.
And you already have high quality development appropriate buildings and activities and classrooms. And this report scares me. So I'll be honest, and I say that all the time.
For our children.
It scares me for our children.
Yep.
It scares me for our parents because they don't have access to more than 6.5 hours if they don't, right? Which is not what they work. And their public schools are closed a lot more than we are. So I'm saying this affects parents in other ways they don't realize it impacts them. And then it also, impacts us with regard to being able to compete now for the parents that we already serve and serve well. And the children are benefiting because they are ready for kindergarten. And so I feel like, again, there's the level of respect, but I do understand the work of Kerwin. There has to be accountability, and they want to see the access and equity for everyone so that all children have the best start. We're good. We want investments. Listen, we'll take the investments from the taxpayers to let parents have choices. My goal is to make sure your parents have choices, right? So they can go.
But what I'm afraid of, they'll make the wrong choice because it's free.
No, we want to be the free too. No, you want to be free, Richie.
Gotcha.
Meaning like you're going to get tax-paying dollars from your family's tax-paying dollars across the state,
makes me feel better.
Right? No,
Okay.
You deserve it, and they should have that opportunity. I'm not saying they shouldn't. So,
Gotcha.
But it needs to come back to us because we can do this, and we have been doing it, and we do it well.
I'm still confused why then. So I love what you said. We are so. I think I have 5 kids, so. I think of our parent. I think of me as a parent, right? I've probably been in my child's kindergarten class twice.
Right. There's no parent engagement.
There's no parent engagement.
Parent engagement.
You pull up front, you drop off, and you just hope and pray, and the reputation of the school kind of gives that parent the comfort that the teachers in the classroom are being run well.
Right.
Here at Celebrate or any high quality program,
they come in and out.
We see our parents every day, twice a day. So we're held accountable every day, twice a day.
We give reports to them. Absolutely.
Right?
You have apps and we are highly engaged. I mean, this is our business. We're highly engaged parents. And we hear a lot from parents that say, when I get to kindergarten and first grade, we don't have any, we hear nothing.
Right.
So that's scary, because they're still children, So
and they accept that. We accept that as parents. It's
we
like,
do.
okay, this is
it's time
what
for
happens.
work. It's time for
I had it the other way around because I came to Celebrate and there was parents in my classes I never met all year. And I came here and I was like, what? They come in your classroom twice a day?
Right?
It's definitely like
we have a lot of parent activities. So and we know even from research how important parent engagement is, and it's important to children's development and their success. So again, we need
that's
to
through accreditation, right? Accreditation.
Because they're part of that process. So let's, I just want to touch on one more thing with regard to this report. This report also says, which is important for you to know as a business and important for everyone to hear, is that they are requiring COMAR to change. And they are stating in here that in COMAR, right now in a public school setting, that a assistant teacher is a high school diploma. Which is fine. They're paraeducators. They work with them. They have a high school diploma as assistant teacher. They are requiring them to have a CDA or an associate's degree, or which they're not equivalent. We know that. And so the community colleges are a bit upset. And so that then will pit us against public schools at a 90-10, 80-20, 70-30. Because your staff that have AA degrees or certified teachers or have CDAs are going to bolt to get all the benefits and all the money from the public school system, because they're going to infuse the $15,000 a year into the public schools, which have a million more resources than you do. This is on the backs of parents and your business. So it's extremely concerning because we don't want to lose our staff, because we provide and then what's going to happen is if you lose your 3s and 4s and your staff, then you're going to have no infant toddler care, because it's hard to run a business on infant toddlers. It's the margins really aren't there. Right. And then if it is, you have to jack up the price, which then lends to more illegal childcare, more achievement gap issues. I mean, the unintended consequences, which we are explaining to them often, is upsetting and scary for our business. And we need to have our voices heard, and we need to make sure our parents understand. We want you to have access and equity with free tax-paying money, but here. But in our quality programs that are going to be a level 5 in 5 years, that are accredited, that do have quality teachers. And we're fine if you have to hire a certified teacher. I've hired certified teachers. I've hired teachers with masters, PhDs, whatever it may be. I'm not going to debate. I've seen the public schools are right now with the public pre-K, it's 40% that they're ready for kindergarten, and that's with low-income children. And I said, well, we take some low-income children, and we're at 55 to 60% of readiness. They're like, that's comparing apples to. That's not comparing apples to apples. We have all low-income children. I'm like, but that's not That's not the best for children. They're supposed to be infused with socioeconomic, everyone working together. That's best practice. So why not look at what we're doing? Because we're doing that. We're infusing them, and we're trying to infuse more if you just give us more scholarship and subsidy dollars, which we're getting. So now let's not take that away. Let's see what happens with that, right? So we need to be vocal. We need to work together and educate our new legislators, because there was just an election, and there's a lot of new legislators out there. We need to educate our parents about this. We need to educate our community about this, our providers, our businesses, our business members, and so that we're all speaking the same language. And this isn't over. I mean, the report will come out. Whether they make any more amendments based on what we've recommended, I don't know. There is a November 29th, I sent you an email. If you want to come down and testify, I've got like 6 businesses and myself that are testifying just to give another perspective. And they love to hear personal stories. They love to hear from taxpayers, business owners that have lots of employees, like you have close to 1,000 employees. It's important. You are pretty important. So I think it would be good to, again, share that perspective in an open comment way. And then they'll have a report that comes out, which will shape some of what MSD does, but then legislation happens, and we don't know what that's going to look like yet. We'll know probably early January, and we will then be testifying and going to the table and behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, trying to get that change to a perspective that works like we talked about today.
What about like you said, I mean, we're talking about, well, for the state, they're talking about expanding the elementary schools. You're talking about
they're going to get construction money, Richie. They're going to be right off the bat. And it also, if you read the report carefully, it says you don't necessarily you don't have to partner with the provider community. You can do 10% of that, but you can also go to libraries and senior centers to find space for your pre-K. Why on earth would you not make it a 50% split? What I'm asking for is 50-50.
Who would be running those though at the senior center?
Minimum 50-50. The public school, they would take it over,
hire and get a space.
And they would take it over. My thing is, why not have a 50-50? Because their response is saying, even though my testimony gave a lot of good information.
Do they want this?
Who?
I mean, the state. I mean, do they really want this? I mean, aren't they struggling enough with what they have under their own roof? And
I'm not going to comment on that.
I mean, aren't they already struggling with handling and
they don't have the capacity.
Right.
They don't have the capacity. So we want to build it together. Look, we want to build this together. If this is the future, and I'm not saying it should be, I think that the scholarships and expansion for low income is the best way to do it. But I understand there's families it's the top 3 expense, right? We have just talked about that. We do want to help our families. So we're not against that. None of us saying that
None of us.
We would like us to have the investments from tax-paying money into diverse delivery, if it includes us at a minimum of 50% as a partner.
But why wouldn't it just allow us to do that? Because we do it best.
I agree with you. So in Georgia, they have universal pre-K, and it's done. It's funded through the lottery. But when given the choice, 80% of families chose the private setting. Of course, we're open 12 hours a day, and we have siblings here, and we're family and parent engagement, and all of the things that we know we do
80%.
well, and we're play-based and project-based, which is best practice. If anybody's listening, it's best practice, because push down of Common Core has hurt our children. I sent out articles on my Facebook page all the time about this. I mean, you are pushing these children, and there's people shooting up schools. We need to stop. I mean, in Finland, Finland is the top educational system in the world. They don't start school till 7.
Wow.
And beforehand,
oh my gosh.
And beforehand, all of their preschool and childcare, it all looks different, but it focuses on conversation, relationship building, social best practice, social emotional well-being. which we know is critical.
Yep.
So test scores and assessments of 3-year-olds is a snapshot. It's really not what it's all about. So we have a lot of work to do, right? And we want to do it together, and we want to be, this is what I always say in my PowerPoint presentations, we want to be at the table and not on the menu. So let's do that. Let's explain what's going on. Let's get our families even more engaged, because we already do, and say we want this to happen, but we want it to be in a way that you still can have this opportunity with all day what we give you. And that your children are more than ready. Yes.
Yeah. And a minute ago you said make our voices heard, but how can our parents do that? We talked a lot about us as educators and child care owners, but how do our parents do it?
It's a great question as well. So what we can do is we can write, email, call your legislators, and I can give you all that's on our website, and I can send it out in any way that would be helpful to you guys to post the people that are on the committees that kind of that's important to get to the right committee and the right person.
Right.
And especially if those families or those providers are in the catchment voting, district. So it would be people that own a business or live that can vote in that area. So that would be extremely important as well. So once we share that and have that all posted, and our lobbyist is more than happy to help you with that as well. So we can connect you with them, and then they just shoot you to the right person. And so that's one of the benefits of being part of something. But yeah, they listen. I've been doing this for 6 years, and I was never a lobbyist. My early childhood child development degree, so I don't know anything about it. Although I have a big mouth,
and you're passionate,
and I'm very passionate.
You got the two special ingredients.
but I will tell you what I've seen, and I've seen a bill be sponsored over one personal story, one issue, and I've seen a committee kill a bill over a few phone calls and a few emails, because they're like, I'm not voting on that. My voters just contacted me. They're concerned. It works. I don't like politics. I love policy, but politics is politics.
But speak up.
Yeah.
And if you don't, shame on you.
Yeah.
Because you are the taxpayer, you are the voter, and you do make a difference. Trust me. I didn't believe it before, because I was like, my vote doesn't matter. Not only does your vote matter, your phone call, your email matters, because that's what they're there for, right? We're here to serve our families. They're here to serve those taxpayers in their district, of course. And they want to hear from you. They truly do. So I know that you've engaged with some legislators, invite them here, have them read books and, and enjoy time and see what you do. Because sometimes when I explain what we do, it's hard to visualize, right? So when you bring people in, just like when you do tours, they see it in action, like, wow, this is really what I want for my child, or this is great quality for my child. So, I think that's part of another way that we can connect all the dots with each other.
That's awesome. Well, we can't thank you enough for all that you're doing for us and our communities, and especially for our kids.
For children, absolutely. That's why we get up every day, right?
Absolutely.
It's so true. And thank you for all you're doing. You're a super great member of ours, and you're a great role model. So we appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Allie.
Thank you for joining us today on Parenting and Teaching with Richie Huffman.
Thanks for tuning in. And remember, childhood only comes this way but once.
For more information, head on over to richiehuffman.com.
I'm Richie.
And I'm Allie.
And we look forward to seeing you again on another podcast.